A chemist can manufacture water in the chemical laboratory by mixing hydrogen and oxygen, but in reality, the living entity works in the laboratory under the direction of the Supreme Lord, and the materials with which he works are also supplied by the Lord. So the idea is that whatever that we think that we are manufacturing, in reality, we are just taking ingredients um, from the Supreme Lord, ingredients that are part of nature, as we call it, and we mix them and we modify them. So what we are actually doing is we are creating a different name and form, nama rupa, as it is said. For instance, we can take hydrogen, which is a gas, and which is formless, and it has a name hydrogen. And we have oxygen, which is another gas, formless, and it has a name oxygen. But if you mix them under certain controlled conditions, then you get something called water, which has certain characteristics such as liquidity. This is not a gas, this is a liquid, and it has a name water. But this hydrogen is taken from nature, supplied by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This oxygen is taken from nature, supplied by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it is not that as a chemist, I myself, independent of nature, supplied by the Supreme Lord, I can create ex nihilo. I can create from zero hydrogen and oxygen and then mix them under controlled conditions and produce water. I cannot do that. In reality, I require the Lord's direction, His uh, supply. I require all that. In other words, I am dependent on the Lord. The Supreme Lord is the provider of the ingredients with which we manipulate and produce products to which we give different labels. But we are not, in reality, creators in the full sense of the term. It is the Supreme Personality of Godhead who can be referred to as the creator in the full sense of the term. The Lord knows everything directly and indirectly. So Janmadhyasya Yata means that the Supreme Lord is the source. Janmadhyasya Yatonmayad Itaratas Shavigya Swarat. He knows everything directly and indirectly. And he is cognizant of all minute details. Cognizant means that he is aware of all minute details because he is the super soul. Andantarastha Paramanu Chayantarastham. He is present in the Brahmanda. He is present inside all of the atoms. Paramanu Chaya Antara Stham is present inside the atoms. And he is fully independent. Adagya Swarat. Swarat means he who shines independently. He who is fully independent. He is compared to a mine of gold. And the cosmic creations in so many different forms are compared to objects made from the gold, such as gold rings, necklaces, and so on. This example of comparing the Supreme Being to a gold mine and the cosmic creations in different forms to gold objects is coming from Vedic literature. And I'll show you one sample. Here is 10th canto, 87th chapter, 26th verse. Nahi vikritim tyajanti kanakasya tad atmataya swakritam anupravishtam idam atmataya vasitam. Just as things made of gold are indeed not to be rejected, since their substance is actual gold, so this world is undoubtedly non different from the Lord who created it and then entered within it. So the idea is that in the commentary, it is written, when a particular object is manufactured, it appears as a transformation of its ingredient cause, as in the case of jewelry made from gold. Persons who want gold will not reject gold earrings or necklaces since these items are still gold despite their modification. True Gyanis see in this mundane example an analogy to the different yet non-different relationship of the Purusha and his emanations, both material and spiritual. Thus, this transcendental knowledge frees them from the bondage of illusion, for they can then see the Lord throughout His creation. The idea is clarified even further by Srila Prabhupada in his Krishna book, chapter 87. The personified Vedas presented the example that those seeking gold do not reject gold earrings, gold bangles, or anything else made of gold simply because they are shaped differently from the original gold. All living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord and are qualitatively one, but they are now differently shaped in 8,400,000 species of life, just like many different ornaments manufactured from the same source of gold. As one who is interested in gold accepts all the differently shaped gold ornaments, so a Vaishnava, knowing well that all living entities are of the same quality as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, accepts all living entities as eternal servants of God. As a Vaishnava, then, one has ample opportunity to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead simply by reclaiming these conditioned, misled living entities, training them in Krishna consciousness, and leading them back home, back to Godhead. Back to our purport. The gold ring and the gold necklace are qualitatively one with the gold in the mine, but quantitatively the gold in the mine is different. Therefore, the absolute truth is simultaneously one and different. Nothing is absolutely equal to the absolute truth, but at the same time, nothing is independent of the absolute truth. Both of them are very important components of the teaching of Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, the philosophy of oneness and difference simultaneously. It is important to understand that we are the living entities are qualitatively one with the Supreme Lord, but we are quantitatively different from the Supreme Lord. This is very important. It is not enough just to understand that we are quantitatively different from the Supreme Lord. We need to know both. Some people have knowledge of qualitative oneness of the living entities and the Supreme Lord, and they also are aware of the quantitative difference between the living entities and the Supreme Lord. Followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are in this category. But there are some others who are aware that the living entities are qualitatively one with the Supreme Being, but they do not know that they are quantitatively different from the Supreme Being. Impersonalism falls under this category. Then there are others who are not aware that we are qualitatively one with God, but they think that we are quantitatively different from the Supreme Lord. These people are also confused. And then there are those who are not aware that we are qualitatively one with the Supreme Being, nor are they aware that we are quantitatively different from the Supreme Being. These are the most unfortunate category. All of them are unfortunate. Categories 2, 3 and 4. The Srimad Bhagavatam teaches Achintya Bheda Veda. Okay. Conditioned souls beginning from Brahma, who engineers the entire universe down to the insignificant ant, are all creating, but none of them are independent of the Supreme Lord. So here, creation simply means taking an item and modifying it into a product by mixing it with certain other items within the material world, creating a product. So this production is what Prabhupada is referring to here as creating. For instance, the body of a child is created inside the womb of a woman. But it is not created out of nothing. It is not creation ex nihilo. It is simply production. All of the ingredients that are required in order to form the physical body of a child, they are all assembled together. and that is what we consider to be creation. The materialist wrongly thinks that there is no creator other than his own self. This is called Maya or illusion. So the illusory potency makes us think that we are the exclusive cause for what we have produced. In reality, there are several causes for the production of anything within the material world, and the living entity's effort is only one. This is brought out in the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. The activity of production entails having the place of action, the body, the performer, the living entity, the various senses, the many different kinds of endeavor, and ultimately the super soul. These are the 5 factors of action. This is Bhagavad Gita 18.14. So there are several causes which are required in order for an activity to take place, and the activity of production is no exception to this. However, the materialist wrongly thinks that he is the singular cause for the product. Because of his poor fund of knowledge, the materialist cannot see beyond the purview of his imperfect senses, and thus he thinks that matter automatically takes its own shape without the aid of a superior intelligence. So because he has very little understanding, and he is not able to calculate about events beyond the range of his imperfect and limited sense perception. Therefore, he tends to think that this universe came up on its own. In the modern world, they say that nature did it. For instance, the various differentiation of species that we see manifest in the world. In the modern world, the biologists, they think that all this has happened through natural selection. Nature itself did it without the aid of a superior intelligence. This is the important point. They think that evolution happened in a manner without any guidance of a conscious being. So that idea is totally wrong. This is refuted in this shloka by Srila Vyasadeva. Since the complete whole or the absolute truth is the source of everything, nothing can be independent of the body of the absolute truth. Whatever happens to the body quickly becomes known to the embodied. Similarly, the creation is the body of the absolute whole. Now, what is meant by this body? Here is a statement. Adi Leela, chapter 5, text 77, Chaitanya Charitamrita. Vishnustu trini rupani purushakhyanyatho viduhu ekam tu mahata srashti dvitiyam tu anda samsthitam tritiyam sarvabhutastham tani gyatva vimuchyate. Vishnu has 3 forms called Purushas. The first, Mahavishnu, is the creator of the total material energy, Mahat, also called Mahatattva. The second is Garbhodashayi, who is situated within each universe. And the third is Kshirodashayi, who lives in the heart of every living being. Garbhodashayi is also called Garbhodakashayi. Kshirodashayi is also called Kshirodakashayi. He who knows these 3 becomes liberated from the clutches of Maya. This verse appears in the Laghu Bhagavatamrita, Purvakanda 2.9, where it has been quoted from the Satvata Tantra. Okay, so there are 3 Vishnu forms. Now, Prabhupada has explained elsewhere in Chaitanya Charitamrita, the 3 Purushas, Karanodakashayi Vishnu, this is the same as Mahavishnu, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu and Kshirodakashayi Vishnu, all have a relationship with the material energy called Maya, because through Maya they create the material cosmos. These 3 Purushas who lie on the Karana, Garbha and Kshira oceans respectively are the super soul of everything that be. Karanodakashayi Vishnu is the super soul of the collective universes. Garbhodakashayi Vishnu is the super soul of the collective living beings.